Hey guys, welcome to another video review. Again, I posted on Instagram which one you guys would rather me review, The Kingdom or Jarhead, both starring Jamie Foxx. And it was actually a really close race. In fact, for the majority of the poll, it was split 50-50. And then at the 11th hour, the final vote came in and you guys voted for Jarhead. So I'm interested to rewatch this one. I remember the first time I watched this, was expecting, a gritty war movie with a lot of action, a lot of shooting, blah 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 kind of stuff. And I remember being very bored by this because I don't think there's any action in it. If there is, it's like very very limited. So I was very disappointed by it. But upon later reflecting on it, I started to kind of see what the point of it was. And like, I hit a point in my life where I started like appreciating films more than just like for action and stuff. But so I started looking at this one again and kind of saw some of the intricacies to the story. So I've been actually really wanting to rewatch it. It's a 2-hour non-eventful war movie, so it's kind of hard to put myself in the mood for it. But I finally decided, you know what, I'll give it a shot. That's why I put it in the poll, and I'm glad that you guys picked it because I'm interested in checking it out and seeing if it is really dull and boring, or if my changed mindset will appreciate the movie better. So I'm gonna throw the movie on like usual, and I'll give you my thoughts when it ends. Well, the movie's over, and this is one of the reasons why I enjoy giving a movie a second viewing before completely writing it off, because that was much better than the first time that I watched it. Like I said before, the first time that I watched it, it was really dry, it was really dull, I wasn't really invested in it. I think I also watched it at like midnight, 1 o'clock, somewhere in there. Like, that's when I started it, and it's a 2-hour movie, so like it took me till like the middle of the night to finish it, kind of thing. So yeah, but this viewing was very, very pleasing and very positive. So the premise of the film, if you're not aware, Jake Gyllenhaal plays as a recruit to the Marines, and it chronicles his boot camp, and then he gets shipped over with his team to Saudi Arabia, and the rest of the movie is just him and his team in the desert, and they're just kind of doing stuff to kind of pass the time until they actually get some action. There's a little bit that I want to go into in like the spoiler side of things, but there's really not much. And I always find dramas are kind of harder to review, because like an action movie you can be like, yeah, this was good and this was good, but like dramas is just kind of like, it's more of a viewer thing. It's not really something that I feel like I can review properly, but I'm gonna give it my best. Talk about what I liked, maybe some of the things I didn't like, and yeah, like I said, there's a couple of spoiler-ish things to talk about. So right off the gate, one of the things that I look for in a drama are the performances. The performances have to be captivating enough for me to actually be invested in the character's plights. And this is Jake Gyllenhaal. I mean, like the guy is a phenomenal actor. He gives his all into all of his roles. And I honestly think that this might be one of his most underrated roles, because this like, when everybody talks about how great Jake Gyllenhaal is, this is not one that's usually on people's lists. But yeah, he gives a powerhouse performance here. There's one scene in particular that he just really showed off his acting chops. Another one that gave off a great performance here is Peter Skarsgård. I've seen him in a few things, but he's never really like given like a fantastic performance. Like he's never done a bad performance, but he's never really given me like anything that's like really solid in my eyes. What I've seen him in. So I think this is probably his best performance. Again, there's one scene towards the end where he really just hits the nail on the head. He really hammers it home, and yeah, I was really impressed by that. Something else that I was very impressed by, and then when I learned who was behind this element, I suddenly understood why I was impressed. The cinematography is very good in this film, especially towards the third act, or in the third act. There's a lot of really good shots. There's a lot of very good visuals. And then, of course, once the credits start rolling, it says director of photography, Roger Deakins, and that just summed everything up. And I don't really think I need to say any more about that. It's Roger Deakins, right? Like, he's like the best cinematographer in the business right now. He's phenomenal. It's not his, I don't think it's his strongest work, but it's definitely very good. And like I said, in the third act, that's really where the cinematography starts to shine. But the point of this movie really is, it's a, like I said before, it's a war movie, but like nothing happens. So the point of this movie is really kind of that like, that subversion of what you expect a war film to have. You know, traditionally you'd expect with a war film there'd be a lot of action, you know, there'd be a lot of suspense, maybe a little bit of character, but mostly like focusing on the action and the manliness and all that kind of stuff. And this is a very different kind of war film, and that's one of the reasons why I actually kind of appreciate it, that it's more of a character study, it's more of the focusing on some of the psychological effects of war and that kind of thing. So yeah, it was a really interesting film to watch. Now the one thing that I kind of did a brief look into, but not very well, I probably could have looked at a couple other things. But Gyllenhaal's character in this is named Anthony Schofield, I want to say. And in the end credits it says based on the book by Anthony Schofield. So I tried doing a little bit of digging because there's nothing on the case, there's nothing on the posters, there's nothing in the movie that says this is based off of true events or this is inspired by an actual event or this is a true story or anything like that. So I'll have to do a little bit more digging and seeing if the book is actually like a real thing or if they just named the main character in this, the author is kind of like an homage or a tribute because they based the movie off of his book. I don't know. But I couldn't find anything in the brief, like, 2 minutes that I looked before recording, so. But yeah, so I don't know if this is based off of a true story or not, but as it is, like, it's still a well-made movie, and it's a very interesting story regardless if it's true or not. So yeah, I personally would recommend this film. If you're a war movie buff, you've probably already seen this. But if you haven't, or if you're just getting into war movies, I would give this one a once-over. Just know that you're going in you're not going to get like a Saving Private Ryan or a Hacksaw Ridge or anything like that. Like, this isn't a guns blazing kind of movie. But that's kind of the point, and I think that's what makes it very interesting. And there's something that I want to bring up in the spoiler section. It's not really a spoiler-ish, but it's kind of a movie detail, and I kind of like trying to separate those two elements. But, no, I would definitely recommend this, and in terms of, like, again, this is another DVD that I'm deciding, you know, like, do I keep it or do I not? This I'm definitely keeping. This was fantastic. I wasn't 100% sure. I was kind of going in thinking, yeah, I'll probably wind up keeping it. It'll probably hold my attention long enough, you know, now that I know that it's not a guns blazing kind of film, but I really was also kind of worried that it was still going to bore me to tears, so I'm actually very glad that it didn't, and I'm definitely hanging on to this. This was a fantastic film. So, with all that out of the way, I'm just going to talk about a couple of, oh, before I do that, there is one other thing. This movie is actually very funny. There's actually quite a lot of humor in the first 2 acts. I was surprised by it. It's really funny because one of the things that I remember about the film at the beginning is there's kind of like a drill sergeant scene kind of reminiscent of like Full Metal Jacket. And I remember that being hysterical when I first saw it. And this time I didn't find it that funny, so I think that's just proof that nothing can ever top Full Metal Jacket. That you want your drill sergeant cursing and shouting obscenities at the main character, you gotta watch Full Metal Jacket. There's nothing else that can top that. But the rest of the movie is actually very funny. There's actually quite a few moments of humor thrown in, and it was actually quite welcomed. So, anyways, that's it for the spoiler-free stuff. Now we'll talk about the spoiler-ish stuff. And the one thing that I wanted to bring up, like I said, it's not like a spoiler, but it is kind of a moment in the movie. But there's a scene where they watch, just before they get deployed, they watch Apocalypse Now. And everybody's sitting in the theater, and the Ride of the Valkyries is playing as the helicopters fly in, and they're all singing along to Ride of the Valkyries, and the the helicopters start bombing the village, and they're all cheering and shouting and yelling and like just having a great time. And knowing how the rest of the movie sort of panned out, because like I said, I haven't seen this movie in years, but I knew that like there isn't none of that in this movie, so it was just kind of this like really interesting and like great showing of like how people view war movies in particular. And like even the people in the military are looking at this as like, yeah, I'm gonna go do that right now. I'm gonna pick up my gun and I'm gonna go shoot something. And it's between that and there's a scene where Jamie Foxx's character says something about get the JFK shot, get that pink mist, during their training, and it cuts to Jake Gyllenhaal, and he makes a comment, or his like narration makes the comment, "I want the pink mist," and it's this very, very dark and disturbing line when you really think about it, because it's like more or less he's joining the military because he wants to kill someone. And again, it kind of goes back to that Apocalypse Now scene where they're all cheering at the helicopters bombing everything. It's like, yeah, we want to go kill something. But and the truth of the matter is, like, I've never been in the military. I've never been in war, so I can't personally comment on this, and I don't know anybody that has. But I can probably guess that this is probably more like what a war is like, where you're just kind of sitting waiting for your orders and you're not really doing anything. You spend hundreds of days out in the desert not doing a damn thing, and you know, it just, nothing happens. It's kind of the same with like policing. You know, you see all these like movies with cops and stuff, and they're all shooting stuff, and every day they get out and they get to draw their gun at least once, and they get to shoot one guy every day, and the policing's not like that. So it's I like seeing movies like this that kind of subvert that whole theory, that mindset that's like, yeah, it's not what you think it's going to be. But another kind of like dark and disturbing moment in this movie, it's just the line again, but Jake Gyllenhaal, towards the, this is a real spoiler. Towards the end, Jake Gyllenhaal and Peter Skarsgård, they get their, they're a sniper team, so one's the spotter, one's the actual shooter. And they get deployed to go into a building and to take out these two guards in this tower. And they're all set, and like Peter Skarsgård, he's they've made mention that he's going to be discharged when they return, like 2 weeks after they get home, and so like this is his only chance to get the kill. And they get the shot all lined up. He calls in for his orders to make sure that they can confirm the kill can be, you know, they can do it. They get their orders. They say it's like, yep, go ahead. And just before Gyllenhaal gets to pull that trigger, these other soldiers show up and they're like, hey guys, watch this, and they call in a airstrike and they just bomb the whole thing. And this is that scene with Skarsgård, because they're like, because before they call the planes in, Skarsgård says, can't we just shoot the guy? Like, we've already got the shot lined up perfectly. Can't we just shoot him right before the planes come? Like, who's gonna know? And he's like, but that's not your orders now. And he's like, but we just got the orders. He's like, well, order request denied or whatever. And Skarsgård just flips out, and it's just this like this devastating moment for him, because he wanted to get this kill, even though he's not the one pulling the trigger. That he's still part of this, and he doesn't get that. So you know, it shows them sitting down after the bomb has gone off. It shows Skarsgård and Gyllenhaal, they're talking, and Gyllenhaal says this one line, and it struck me so deeply because of how like disturbing it really is. Because he looks at Skarsgård and he says, are we ever going to get to kill anybody? And it's just, again, it's that kind of mindset that like a lot of people go into the military because they think they're just going to like get to pick up an assault rifle and just go Rambo and shoot a bunch of stuff. So it's things like that that make this film like really interesting to kind of study. Like, it's a great character study. But yeah, other than that, there's really nothing else that I can say about this film. Like I said, it's fantastic. It's a great film. Well directed, well performed, well shot. And like I said, it's just got a great, it's got like a great but dark character study that's I think more people should probably look at, honestly. So that's my 2 cents on Jarhead. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, share it, like the video, all that fun stuff. And also subscribe if you yourself are jonesing for film.